Hey, morning, folks. Happy Friday. Happy TGIF to everyone. Hope everyone's doing all right out there. It's been quite a bumpy ride, if I'm being honest. So in terms of, basically, like I said in the Discord room, I'm just going to do a really quick run on NFP, which we will be getting in about an hour and a half time. That's 13:30 London time. We are just about. So good morning to the guys in the US and afternoon to traders in Europe. So over here we saw the Dixie just pop over 107s today, created that bit of like it's just 2 days of resistance really around 107 before we just plopped through. And this primarily I feel is about basically Bullard's comment that has come after the FOMC minutes, which kind of outline the possibility of another 75 basis point hike in July, basically end of this month. Also, the same thing with the ECB as well. Apparently not. So ECB minutes came out yesterday saying that they're not just going to keep it at 25 basis point. The idea right now is that, okay, we are saying we're going to do by the end of the day, 25 basis point is going to happen, but they are keeping the door open to larger hikes down the line. Um, so all in all, with this going the way it is right now, we're seeing, the likes of gold just getting absolutely hammered. Basically dollar pairs. We're seeing over here, the euro getting smacked around. Aussie, as I did mention early on, I just don't think this market. I'm not saying that it doesn't have room to go. I just think that in terms of data wise, the Australian economy is not doing too bad really. Um, so this has been a range we've been looking at, and I really didn't think that we were going to just trade below and continue on, seeing as okay, potentially we might be looking at this market to go back to test the upper ranges, so upper limits of this range. But the bigger deal is okay, so the NFP we are expecting. Before I get to SPOOs, we are now trading within the gap. I mean, we went above the gap on the Nasdaq. It's it just goes to say that it was only a matter of time before the SPOOs tries to do the same. So if the Nasdaq holds above this gap here, I don't see why the SPOOs won't be trading above today. Um, so let's just go to the main item today, the non-farm payrolls. We're expecting today, and this consensus is at 260,000 new jobs created, a drop from last month's reading of 390,000. So what would, so basically, knowing that traders are expecting this, okay, what would change sort of like the current view of things? A crazy number from either side, right? But really, what we want to be looking at is that, okay, so if there is an improvement on the jobs numbers, meaning consumer market is still relatively healthy, and this is because people jobs are still being created. That means people will still be able to get jobs and get paid and pay for services and goods. So basically, consumer health is good. Businesses don't have to in a way, like we're getting like pretty decent factory orders numbers. So to me, the idea here is if it's a pretty decent number, maybe better than 268,000, maybe in line, closer to the prior month reading, then okay, maybe we don't need 75 basis point hike, right? We will still be hiking, but it might not need 75 basis point. So what we could potentially see on a decent read is potentially this Dixie just take a bit of a pullback, maybe test 105s again. It might not happen overnight, it might not happen today, but we we would be looking at 105s to get tested, if not lower, like 104s over here. You can see this support trend line here from earlier this year is still holding. So So potentially we might be looking at a retest of this support trend line if we do, before continuing on really, and perhaps, that is and this is 75 basis point being priced in, trying to get priced in. So it might be too expensive then at this point, at this price point, really. So a pullback should be imminent. So if this pulls back, if the Dixie pulls back, we would, you know, correlation wise, we would be getting, positive on basically positive results on equities. We might see a bit pullback, bits coming back the into gold, potentially testing this prior low of year that we have tested. That is far. So, would I try to short from this area here? It really depends on where the Dixie goes, right? If it pulls back to a decent area that might just stall, then, without worrying about, Dixie pulling back further and potentially causing, prices of gold to, just sort of like go back up to retest this prior support trend line that got broken couple of, basically this was last week. Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. I think it's to be fair, in terms of daily ranges, it is a really great place to get on a short over there. But we are still worried about a recession, and that is still getting priced in, which is why look at this bad boy here, still trading below the spot trend line, still trading below that 104. So if we retest, that is, look at that, like just to the tick, right? If we go for a retest and doesn't push further and doesn't hold above 106s, I think, we could potentially see, crude also just take a pullback. And I don't, irregardless of where the dollar might go. So if it goes up or down, you know, you might get a spillover effect in terms of correlation, but then, what is the main driver of this move here is recession fears. So we are expecting, and that might get slightly alleviated if if the headline NFP payrolls figure comes in better than expected, but not better than prior month. If it comes in much better than 390,000, we could actually get a rally, right? A rally. So, the fears of recession might be a bit, premature, but I don't see that happening, really. I don't see that happening. I mean, which is the fear here. If I don't see that happening, a lot of people don't see it happening, consensus, analyst consensus says, it's not happening. Then that surprise will drive, risk assets up. Uh, and gold. Sorry, and the dollar down. Unemployment rate is still expected to come in at 3.6%, so nothing too serious there. Unless this changes, then that's a whole other thing, and we'll discuss that in the Discord room. So that is it really from me. So, okay, so the other side, if it comes in much worse than 268,000, maybe like 150,000, then you would see equities, I feel, take a bit of a tumble down, and basically crude as well. So there's no good news is bad news, bad news is good news. It's just bad news is bad news over here, right? So recession fears, and also at the with the fact that inflation is really putting the screws on consumers. Hence, that 75 basis point hike will potentially happen. So it's double bubble for risk assets really in the US. So that is it from me. Any questions at all, hit me up in the comments, or in the Discord room. Have a great session ahead. This is Reed, bring you today's NFP rundown. Cheers.